everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the video that I'm going to be calling like all the books I want to read in 2020, all the rest of the books that I want to read in 2020. It's basically my TBR for the months of November and December put together, because there are so many books that I want to get to that I've had on my shelves. They're either new releases that I've been getting over this fall season, or they've been books that I've picked up that I intended to read, never really got to, and they're right next to me. You can't quite see them, they're not really in frame, but I am very excited. I have a big stack on both sides of me. So without further ado, let's just dive into this, because this is going to be a long video, I can already tell. So we're just going to start off with the two books that I am currently reading and going into the month of November, planning to finish these. This video also doesn't include any classics, because if I included the classics I want to read, this would be very long. And it also doesn't include any of my seasonal books that I want to read in December. So my memory card went full, my camera shut off, a whole bunch of stuff just happened. Don't remember where I was.
Oh my god. I was just editing this video and I was very wrong with my assumption of where this next part cut off for me. I didn't even start talking about the books and my camera had cut out. That's terrible. We're just gonna add this clip in and we're gonna talk about the books that I'm currently reading. One of which is Keeper of the Lost Cities Lodestar. This is book 5 in the Keeper of the Lost Cities series. I'm currently 282 pages in. Amazing. I'm also reading Dracul by Decre Stoker and J.D. Barker. Very into that one, as you guys have seen on a few of my reading vlogs. And I am also currently reading the book that I talk about first in this video, properly filmed. And then it was me going off about like sorting my books, because I ended up sorting them into a pile of backlist and then ones that are published in 2020. So anything that was not published in 2020, I think I talk about first, and then the other ones I talk about afterwards. So all the new releases that I've picked up around this time of year, because I have a lot of new releases. So, I apologize for this random skip in books and filming, but apparently that's just what happens when you have a full memory card and don't realize it, so enjoy the rest of the video.
But I believe I was talking about Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab. So, this is a book that has been sitting on my shelves for way too long. I needed to finish this trilogy, and I was disappointed with the second book in this trilogy when I read it earlier this year. So we will see where I'm at with this one. My expectations are low, so we're fine. We're going into it. I also have this one on audio. I have 3 books on audio right now on my Libby app. I have this one and 2 others that I'll be talking about in this video, and another one, of course. And then I have one coming up that's going to be up in the next few days. So I will be listening to a lot of audiobooks coming up. But this is the 3rd installment of the Darker Shade of Magic series by V.E. Schwab. If you have not read it, it is about basically 4 different Londons. They're all like parallel worlds, and this guy named Kel, he's one of the only people in the world left who can travel between these worlds. Great London is our regular London that we know. Red London is the London of magic. Black London is the dead London, and White London is the dying London. Giant story about magic and stuff like that. So excited, somewhat, to finally finish this trilogy. Okay, so this one's not as backlist as the rest of them. This was published in 2019, but it has also been on my shelves since this summer. I keep telling myself that I'm gonna read it, and that is The Lovely War by Julie Berry. This is a historical fantasy type of book that follows not only the gods, like the Greek gods telling the story, but like 4 different mortal people. Probably not really even fantasy, mostly just historical fiction, set in World War II, I think, or both World Wars I and II. I'm told it is heartbreaking. I also have the audiobook for this because I've heard the audiobook deals with has like jazz music in it, and it's really beautiful, so very excited about that. All right, more backlist stuff. So we have two from the same author, and these are both chunky books. This one especially. This one specifically is The Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. I do believe I have the audiobook for this as well. It is a 48-hour long audiobook, but I'm excited to get to this because I read the first one in the Stormlight Archives, The Way of Kings, earlier this year. Absolutely loved it. Cannot wait to keep going with this absolutely massive series. It is huge, and I believe the fourth book is coming out in November, so that's very exciting. I'm not there yet. This is the second one, but still exciting to have these massive tomes to get through. I don't even know how to explain this series. It is expansive fantasy world following a variety of characters. We have an assassin who cries when he kills. We have a war hero who is now a slave to the war effort. We have basically like a duke, someone really high up in political power who is experiencing these visions. And we have a girl who is determined literally to do anything to keep her family alive. I believe those are the four people that we are following. Super excited to keep going with this. I love me a delicious, expansive world. Keeping on the Brandon Sanderson game, I have The Hero Mages, which is the third book in the original Mistborn trilogy, and I have had this on a few TBRs this year since I started reading the Mistborn trilogy early this year, I do believe, or late last year, can't quite remember, but I love this world and this magic system. It deals with swallowing metals, so this is the third one. This basically follows a ragtag team. The first book is about sort of a heist in a way. It's basically about taking down the Empire with a crew of people who all have various metal-based powers, and then we have Vin, who is our main girl, and she is a Mistborn, which means she can burn all the metals and use them all to her advantage, whereas most people can only use one. It's very good, and I cannot wait to see how it ends. Alright, so my next stack here is a bunch of Rick Riordans. So I would like to continue reading the Magnus Chase trilogy, the Trials of Apollo series, this is book 2, and I would like to read the Kane Chronicles trilogy because it's been sitting on my shelves for way too long. So this is basically a continuation of Percy Jackson's world. Wow, that light is coming through my blinds very nicely. That's great. Continuation of the Percy Jackson world. This deals with Norse mythology. This is the second book in the trilogy, and I believe this is his most YA series that he has written, which is super fun. This is the continuation of his most recent series with Apollo, which follows after the events of the Heroes of Olympus series, which is the second Percy Jackson based one. And then we have this one, which follows Egyptian mythology, and I believe Percy shows up in this at some point, but I'm not exactly sure when in the timeline this sits. So I know it's not as new as the Trials of Apollo, so I can read it without getting spoiled for anything in this. But excited to read all of these and continue my Rick Riordan journey to read all of his books that he's written. And then following the same train of Rick Riordan books, I believe these are also backlist. Let me just make sure. I say backlist purely meaning that they were not published in 2020. So both of these were published in 2019. We have Sal and Gabby Break the Universe by Carlos Hernandez. This is part of the Rick Riordan Presents. And we also have The Dragon Pearl by Yoon Ha Lee. I'm excited about both of these simply because they're part of the Rick Riordan Presents, and I've wanted to read both of these for so long, you guys. Like, I have just I want to read these so badly. This one follows like more sci-fi Korean mythology. Sal and Gabby Break the Universe follows Cuban mythology, which is very exciting because I know nothing about Cuban mythology. That is my favorite thing about this imprint, is that I'm introduced to mythology from all over the world, not just Greek mythology, which I am very well versed in, and Roman mythology as well, because that's just what is more popular, I guess, in the Western Hemisphere. Or not more popular, but just more pushed, I guess is the better word for it. I just love the Rick Riordan Presents middle grades so much. Alright, so that covers the books that I want to read that weren't published this year. Now, let's dive into the ones that were published this year in no particular order because they're all just next to me. So we have the very first one here, which is in a genre that I don't read a whole lot of. I just heard that it was possibly like And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie and picked it up because yes. And that is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This was pretty big when it first came out around the book internet. So I'm very excited about that. All I know is that it is about a wedding set on a remote island, and it follows the points of view of the bride, the plus one, the best man, the wedding planner, and the bridesmaid. One of them is a murderer, and one of them is a victim, and you don't know which one is which as you're reading through it. So it's like a mystery thriller, which is very exciting. The next one is a book that I just got the other day in the mail, and I'm so excited about it, and that is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I know nothing about this other than it deals with a library, and I've heard Brit from Basically Brit rave about it. So I'm very excited to get to this one. I believe there's also content and trigger warnings for this. Yes, well, because the very first sentence of this book is about suicide and thinking about suicide. So definitely check out the content warnings if you need to, if you want to pick this one up. But it is a library between life and death. So Nora Seed finds herself in the Midnight Library. She has a chance to make things right. Up until now, her life has been full of misery and regret. She feels she has let everyone down, including herself, but things are about to change. The books in the Midnight Library enable Nora to live as if she had done things differently. With the help of an old friend, she can now undo every one of her regrets as she tries to work out her perfect life. But things aren't always as she imagined they'd be. And soon her choices place the library and herself in extreme danger. Sounds fantastic, and I'm very excited to get to it. The next one is a sequel to a book I absolutely loved this year, one of my favorite books, and that book is The Lost Queen by Signe Pike, and the second one is The Forgotten Kingdom by Signe Pike. So this continues the story of Langoreth, the forgotten Scottish queen, who was the sibling to the man who sparked the myth of Merlin, and it is so good. The first book, fabulous, like so good. If you guys love historical fiction, definitely pick this up. It has feeling of magic in it, but not a whole lot. It continues where we left off in the first one, so I'm not going to spoil that for you, but the first book basically follows Langoreth's life as she grows up and has a family, and it is about her true love that she's had. It's about her brother, Lailakin, who is becoming basically, I think it's a druid. I think that's what he followed. And it has Uther Pendragon and his dragon warriors. It follows basically Arthurian legend, and that's very, very exciting. Alright, so the next one is a book written by my dear friend here on YouTube, Sarah Sutton. It is her book, Out of My League, which is basically a fake dating YA romance. I have read her two other books that were both released this year, actually. What Are Friends For? And her Halloween romance, which is called If the Broom Fits, and I loved them both so much. I gave them each 5 stars. So I'm excited about this one, and this one follows Sophia, who's having some troubles in school and her personal life as well because her boyfriend publicly dumps her at a party, which is incredibly mortifying. To make matters even worse, captain of the baseball team and the most popular guy at Bayview High, Walsh Hunter, jumps in and throws his arms around Sophia, declaring his undying love for her. He was faking, of course, but no one else seems to realize it. Suddenly she's thrown into a world of fake relationships and undercover journalism, and Sophia realizes she's way, way out of her league. So very, very excited to read this one. The next one actually doesn't come out until Wednesday this week, so it'll be out by the time you guys see this video, but that is Master of One by Jada Jones and Danielle Bennett. It is a Fae YA fantasy? I don't really know. It says on the front here, 6 Fae relics, 1 daring thief, the score of a lifetime. So it follows Rags, who is a talented thief, but stealing relics from the Fae, that's something else entirely, especially when the relic he's after turns out to be a Fae himself, a distractingly handsome, annoyingly perfect ancient Fae prince called Shining Talon. What a great name. So it's pitched as Six of Crows meets The Cruel Prince, So I'm excited to read it. As you guys know, I'm not the biggest fan of fae and fairies on my in my reading, but this one for some reason just intrigues me so much, and I got this arc from HarperCollins. Thank you, HarperCollins, for this lovely thing. I'm sorry I didn't read it before the release date, but I'm excited to read it either way. The next book is also a new release from HarperCollins, and that is Among the Beasts and Briars by Ashley Poston. I am ridiculously excited about this book, and the only thing I know about it is that it is a dark fairy tale. I have a weird inkling in the back of my head that this is a standalone, and I'm not entirely sure if it is or not. So, also, just look at this cover. It looks like cross-stitch in a way. I don't know why. It just looks so beautiful. Sirius is safe in the kingdom of Aloria. Here there are no droughts, disease, or famine, and peace is everlasting. It has been this way for hundreds of years, since the first king made a bargain with the lady who ruled the forest that borders the kingdom. But as Aloria prospered, the woods grew dark, cursed, and forbidden. Sirius knows this all too well. When she was young, she barely escaped as the woods killed her friends and her mother. Oh my god. Now Sirius carries a small bit of the curse, the magic, in her blood, a reminder of the day she lost everything. So it continues from there. I just realized that that's not cross stitch. This is made out of like natural petals and bark, and wow, that is such a beautiful cover. Anyways, extremely excited about this one. The next one I think is the one that I'm most excited to get to, and I cannot wait to get to it. Honestly, cannot wait to get to it, and that is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This is, again, like The Forgotten Kingdom, an Arthurian retelling, but this one deals with like black girl magic, and I'm so excited about it. So we have Bree Matthews, who one day goes to the UNC Chapel Hill program for like gifted learners, I guess, for bright high schoolers. But on the first day, she witnesses a magical attack, deals with demons and this secret society of so-called Legendborn who are hunting these creatures down. There's also a mysterious teenage mage who calls himself a Merlin. So she's thrown into this world of Legendborn who reveal themselves to be descendants of King Arthur himself. And I'm so excited about this, you guys, you have no idea. I just have an unending love for Arthurian legend. It's just so good. It's so good. Yeah, so excited to get to this. It'll probably be in the next like week or so when I finally pick this up. Oh, so excited. The next one is another one that I'm very excited to get to, and that is Raybearer. I mean, every single book in this video is one that I'm super excited to get to, obviously. This I've had on my channel before. I've raved about this cover. It is absolutely stunning. One of my favorites of 2020 for sure. So it is about Tarisai, who has always longed for the warmth of a family. She was raised in isolation by a mysterious, often absent mother, known only as the Lady. When Tarisai comes of age, the Lady sends her to the capital of the global empire of Aritsar to compete with other children to be chosen as one of the Crown Prince's Council of 11. If she's picked, she'll be joined with the other council members through the Ray, a bond deeper than blood. That closeness is irresistible to Tarisai, but the Lady has other ideas, including a magical wish that Tarisai is compelled to obey. Kill the Crown Prince once she gains his trust. So, super pumped about this. We're just gonna keep going. Like, this entire stack of new releases is just so exciting to me. I'm so excited about this one. And that is Sky Hunter by Marie Lu. Oh, I know nothing about this other than I'm just so excited to get to it. So I've now read 2 Marie Lu books in my lifetime, specifically in this year. And I'm excited to keep going with this book. In a world broken by war, a team of young warriors is willing to sacrifice everything to save what they love. So from what I can gather, which isn't a whole lot, this is about a federation that is conquering many different countries, leaving this one country, Mara, is one of the last free nations in the world. Refugees from all over have fled to its borders, it's hoping to escape a fate worse than death, which is transformation into mutant war beasts known as ghosts. Creatures the Federation then sends to attack Mara. The legendary strikers, Mara's elite fighting force, are trained to stop them. But as the number of ghosts grows and Carenza closes in, defeat seems inevitable. Still, one striker refuses to give up hope. Robbed of her voice and home, Talon Kanami knows firsthand the brutality of the Federation. Their cruelty forced her and her mother to seek asylum in a country that considers their people repugnant. She finds comfort only with a handful of fellow strikers who have pledged their lives to one another and who are determined to push Carenza back at all costs. Sounds great. And this cover is absolutely gorgeous. Like, this undercover, I have never seen a book like this where the title's only on the cover, not on the spine. Oh, so beautiful. And like the pages have the name. Anyway, this is turning into a gushing video over how beautiful these books are. So the next one is also a release from this past fall and has been all over the book internet, and that is Blood and Honey, the sequel to Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. I am so excited to get to this because if you guys remember last year, Serpent and Dove was like a guilty pleasure book for me because it's not a good book by any means, but I really enjoyed it. So the first book follows a witch and a witch hunter who are bound in holy matrimony, and antics ensue from there. The next one is a book that, since its release, has had a bit of interesting feedback, and I am well aware of the racial feedback that has come out of it, considering a few moments in this book that the author has since released a statement about to have them removed in all future printings, which is fantastic on her part, but also sucks that it was even in there in the first place. And since finding out about that, I have been less excited to read this book, but I am still going to because I did purchase it, and it seems like a perfect book to read around this time of year. But that is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. So if you want to know more about all of that, all of the allegations that are justified, I assume, because I haven't yet read this to see for myself, but I trust whenever somebody claims that there's issues, especially with race inside of a book. But I am very intrigued to read this book either way, because I want to delve further into the fantastical dark academia that I believe this is. So this is basically a book about a girl who is going to a school, I believe, called the Scholomance. She wants to kill this guy named Orion Lake who keeps saving her life. I really don't know anything about it, but I just know that this is about a school that the stakes are incredibly deadly, like if you don't pass, you die, kind of a thing, so intrigued. The last book that I'm going to talk about today is one that you've probably seen in every single video on BookTube. I can hear you all saying it now, but it is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by Victoria Schwab. This is perhaps the one book that I know is going to break my soul simply because of all the feedback that it's been getting. People absolutely adore this. And it's not her typical fantasy adventure. It's a slow look at humanity, basically. And it follows Addie LaRue, who on the night of her wedding, who lives in a time where women don't really have that many rights or choices other than to just get married and die young after having so many children. She decides she wants to live a life and she does not want to die. So she makes a deal with the devil. He grants her immortality, but with a catch. She is also cursed at the same time to be forgotten by everybody she meets. So she goes through this life incredibly lonely because nobody remembers her. Except for one day, she goes into a bookstore and then she goes back, and a few days later, a boy who works there, I guess, remembers her name and her face. So I'm expecting to cry my eyes out with this one. I honestly cannot wait to get to it. I honestly cannot wait. And it is just so beautiful. This spine is like none other. This cover is gorgeous with the constellation. It's just gorgeous. Look at these end papers. So pumped for all of these books. And I know it's a lot. I haven't even counted how many it is. That is 22 books. With all of this, and then the books that I'm going to be reading for videos and my holiday TBR, I think I have a pretty great reading list for the rest of 2020. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you stuck around this long, please comment an emoji of a book stack down below because I would love to know how many of you actually watched this entire video, because I know it was probably a longer one. I really hope you guys are having a great day wherever you are, and I will catch you in another video soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.